We've had a pretty good summer. We had monsoon pattern rains. The deer should be in great shape, great condition. We have pretty good fawn numbers. Our deer populations are still down, kind of like lingering effects of long-term drought, but it should be a similar hunt to the last couple of years. There's some good bucks out there. I think we had good antler growth with that early moisture and that wet summer. So should be an okay deer hunt. Not gonna be, you know, a game changer, amazing, but also not the worst we've had.
So we're putting that 0 collar on.
As we just told you in our quiz question, the DWR monitors our deer herd with a collar study that they've enacted on 15 units in the state. Biologists go in, capture fawns, bucks, and does, put a GPS collar on them, and the data from the collar gives biologists a really good insight on how the herd is doing on each of these 15 units.
And we're looking at movements, we're looking at body condition. When we have an animal that dies, we get a notification just really quickly. And we have a biologist usually out that responds to that notification that we had an animal die within a day or two. Got it. And we can determine cause-specific mortality. So exactly what killed that animal. Did it get hit by a car? Was it killed by a lion? Did it starve to death or have a disease? And it's really letting us focus in and get a really good snapshot of what's happening with our deer populations, and helps us identify our limiting factors and be able to focus and working on those things so we can do the most we can to help our deer populations thrive and do well.
Yearling bucks represent about half of the harvest on many units during the hunts. Dax says the data from the studies they've been working on show that hunters should expect to see fewer yearling bucks on the hunt this year.
The fawns from last year, so the fawns from the spring of 2021 would be this year's yearling bucks. Unfortunately, we had horrible drought, record high temperatures like in June when we had fawns, newborn fawns on the ground, and we had pretty crummy fawn survival early on last summer. Then the end of last year, we had great monsoon pattern rains, and the does came into last winter in great condition. We had a relatively mild winter, and this spring I think we had great fawning. So we're looking to have a great yearling crop for next year. This year, not as good. This long-term drought and the impact it has on deer, it's kind of a bummer sometimes. We've had good conditions last fall and last winter, and this summer's been good, but we really need a year just to get back on level ground before we can start trying to maybe grow deer.
On your way home from the hunt, if you see a big game check station, do the deer a favor. Make sure to stop. The information gathered helps DWR managers better understand how our herd is doing.
And the biologists are collecting some data from deer. They're looking at antler sizes and age classes. But probably the most important thing we're looking at chronic wasting disease, or CWD. In the last couple of years, we're starting to see some spikes in a few areas in CWD prevalence in deer. It poses a pretty significant long-term threat to deer population health in the state of Utah. On our website, you can see the specific units that we're testing in this year. And if you harvest a deer in one of those units, stop by a check station or a DWR office, and we'd love to get a sample from you and try to stay on top of what's happening with that horrible disease in our deer populations.